Hey, let's go to Ravens-Vikings. Vikings led by their new starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. Ravens looking to bounce back from missing the playoffs last year. Their offensive success, you figure, will continue to be fueled by Lamar Jackson and by Derrick Henry. Remember him? Sort of the forgotten man last year. His numbers dropped off a lot. Big part of it was his second half production. We look closely at the numbers there. His yards per game dropped by nearly 20 in the second half. His carries also dipped. Obviously, a lot of things sort of go hand in hand with each other. And Lewis, you're nodding your head at that. There were reasons why Derrick Henry's numbers fell off last year. Some will wonder if it's because he's running into that wall.
No, I don't think he is. Look, I think Derrick is a freak now. I mean, he really is. And when you look at some of the statistics, like his yards after contact per rush, he was like fourth in the league. His yards before contact per rush, he was middle of the pack, which tells you offensive line play wasn't as good as it typically has been. And they've tried to address that this year. They drafted Benga Ioane out of Penn State in the first round, secured the interior of the offensive line. His number of explosive 10-plus yard runs, he was top 4 in the league. So he still, I believe, has game-breaking ability. I don't think he's a problem. I think the offensive line will be better. The improvements that they've made on the perimeter and really the chemistry between Declan Doyle and Lamar Jackson is really what's going to take this offense to another level.
And, Hawk, that's sort of the tiptoeing up to the point that I was trying to make, which is sometimes these things are symbiotic. With Lamar Jackson not being out there and not being as much of a threat to run with the football as he is, it has a trickle-down effect, and that might have also had an impact on Henry last year.
Absolutely. I mean, Lamar Jackson is the most dangerous runner in the National Football League because you can't game plan for a quarterback who is the fastest, the quickest, powerful, and can run just as good as any running back. Well, you have both of those guys in the backfield. As a defender or a defensive coordinator, you always take away the most threatening. Well, who's the biggest threat between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson? There really isn't. It's a 50-50 split. So if Derrick Henry is in that lineup without Lamar Jackson, it allows your defense to pin their ears back and really focus on them. So the lack in production or the fall off in production from year to year had nothing to do with Derrick Henry's ability and the fact that the offensive line had struggle and injuries and that Lamar Jackson wasn't in the lineup as consistently as he was a year before.
So, Mike T., I thought the conversation we had this morning in our meeting was interesting. They have a lot of household names on that team. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, even Zay Flowers. But it's a name, Declan Doyle, that a lot of people probably don't know who might wind up being the most impactful name in that team this year.
Absolutely agree. And an organization tells you a lot about themselves by the people they hire. Declan Doyle came from the Chicago Bear, Detroit Lion tree under Ben Johnson. So to these guys' point, look for a lot more under center, 2 tight ends, and get the ball to Derrick Henry. Let's go back a year ago. Lamar Jackson played in 4 less games than he did in 2024, but was sacked 13 more times. So they draft Vega out of Penn State. They get a coordinator who's going to secure the line of scrimmage, much the way as Ben Johnson has all these trick plays. Fundamentally, he wants to run the ball with 12 personnel. So I think what Baltimore is saying is we got Derrick Henry, we got Lamar Jackson. We could be healthier, more productive, and then more explosive by fortifying the line and using heavy play action.
Look, when Lamar Jackson has been healthy, this team has won games. There's a direct correlation there. It's a new era, a new time. He's moving into the next phase of his career now with the new head coach and everything else. Do you expect the Ravens to be right back there up at the top and competing for the Super Bowl this year?
As long as they're healthy, as long as that relationship continues to kind of grow and be productive and be a net positive in terms of Declan and Lamar, I expect them to be there. The offensive line will be better. They're better on the perimeter now. Look, Zay got his money. Jacoby Lane is tearing it up. They drafted 2 tight ends, as you're talking about, because they want to go with more heavy packages. Derrick is still going to be Derrick. On the defensive side, you know Jesse's going to be good as far as getting that side of the ball up to speed, him and Anthony Weaver. I think this team overall is going to be on the right path.
Hawk, I don't think we can count on the fact that everyone is watching all the preseason and watching all these practices. Tell everybody, who doesn't know, who Jacoby Lane is.
Rookie receiver, big body, 6'4", 200 pounds, gives an element to the offense that they've been missing. Zay Flowers is every level of a receiver. I'm such a Zay Flowers fan. When you get down in that red zone, a guy like Jacoby Lane, who again is a newcomer to this offense and to this team, he is going to make his way there for this team. Windows are shorter. They're closed faster. There's not as much space to leverage speed of Zay Flowers. When you put that ball up against Lane, and Lane has shown some incredible plays all through camp and started even in the preseason against the Eagles and making big-time plays for the team.
Feels like a player who might make an impact this year. They're a very interesting team to watch. Meanwhile, I thought this was funny yesterday. We told you about Von Miller, where the Eagles and Patriots will have joint practices today and tomorrow, culminating in a preseason game on Saturday evening. The biggest storyline, of course, is A.J. Brown against his former team. They traded him June after 4 prosperous but tumultuous seasons together. So we had Sal Palantonio from the Philadelphia angle of it all earlier this morning from Foxborough. And as always, with a smile on his face, our Patriots reporter Mike Reese is back with us with the other side of the story. Mike, let's talk about A.J. Brown. What has he said to you about his new quarterback, Drake May?
Greeny, A.J. Brown shared the story that in one of his first team meetings, he's sitting right next to Drake May, he was sort of taken aback by how Drake May took control of the team meeting. He said for a young player, 3rd year in the league, for him to do that made an impression on him. Now, they've had 18 training camp practices. I have watched them all, Greeny, and I want to tell you what I've seen from the combination of Drake May and A.J. Brown. It has been patience and potency. The patience is that they started slow. Took them a little while to get going. Then the potency, the last play of the last practice on these fields, 65-yard touchdown pass. Drake May, a beautiful deep ball to A.J. Brown. Drake puts his index finger up in the air, and right behind him, Mike Vrabel, the head coach, he also had his index finger up in the air.
All right, Mike, stay with us here. I want to keep you in the conversation, but I want to go to Hawk here because you can explain better than anybody can. So many similarities between you and A.J. Brown as I see you. Perhaps not in stature, but in position. How would you describe A.J. Brown and what you think he brings to an offense that, again, while this team was in the Super Bowl, certainly that offense struggled in some big moments last year. What does he bring to it?
He brings that consistency because his ability is as a top 5 receiver in the National Football League. And all the conversation around A.J. Brown in Philadelphia was rooted exactly in that. Yes, he's a big-time player on a big-time team, but when you look at the receiver rankings, very rarely at this stage in his career will people have him as a top 3, 4, 5 receiver, and he is that. So for Drake May, who had an incredible season a year ago, MVP caliber, when you look at the statistics, he did an incredible job of spreading the ball around everywhere, where now you put a receiver in that lineup that doesn't always need to be clearly open. He's one of the best contested catchers. He can move and change direction like a little guy, but like we talked about just now, Greeny, he is a physically dominant receiver that should make the game, in the passing game specifically, easier for Drake May.
Well, you were, Mike T, talking earlier this morning about his departure from Philadelphia and how they lose their power forward. So what does it mean for the Patriots to gain that guy?
Well, again, I think he's the perfect complement to Romeo Doubs and Kayshon Boutte in terms of he could go across the middle, do the heavy lifting. Romeo Doubs, to me, is a very underrated signing. I think he's a great route runner, could really work outside the numbers. So I think, like, if you're building a perfect offense for Drake May, their acquisitions of both Doubs and Brown were perfect complements to one another.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's the versatility that A.J. brings to the table. He can win inside on in breakers. He can win outside. You can be, for 3/4 of the down as a defensive back, in perfect position with a guy like this and be like, okay, I got him. I've got him locked up. And then it's that last quarter of the down where he just is able to create a little bit of separation because of those broad shoulders, those big arms, and you see it right there. Okay, you have perfect coverage on him. You're hand fighting with him. You feel like you've got him under control and you're in phase. And next thing you know, the ball's coming and you're going, he caught it again. Those are the kind of things that number ones are able to do. That's how they separate themselves. He reminds me of, like, I remember, like, T.O. when he came into the league.
Yeah.
Just so big and strong. But, I mean, T.O. was also blazing fast. A.J. Brown was 4'4" when he came out as well. He just brings that kind of unique quality. Josh McDaniels has already talked about it.
So that's an improvement that we expect them to make this year. But Mike Reese says we watch them go through their playoff run. Their biggest area of struggle, again, this is a team that made it to the Super Bowl last year, but if you're finding areas where they really struggled, that offensive line struggled, and in particular, there was a lot of attention on last year's number 1 or first-round pick, Will Campbell. You've spoken to him. What did you take away from that conversation?
Just a few days ago, Greeny, I had a one-on-one interview with Will Campbell, and he shared with me how Lane Johnson, the Eagles' offensive tackle, is one of his close friends, and Lane Johnson passed along some advice. He said to Will Campbell, you have to be very honest with yourself about the season that you had. And Will Campbell told me that he felt like he was honest. You see the photo here, Greeny. This is going to be the best one-on-one matchup that Will Campbell has all training camp.
Which one's Mike Reese?
So he talked about being honest, guys, with the season that he had. And Will Campbell felt like he was honest with the season that he had, and that before his injury in late November, he felt like he was playing good ball. After the injury, he said he didn't measure up. So this offseason, it was about building strength, getting back to full health, and he spent time with Lane Johnson and a few other big-time offensive linemen to do that.
Look, there are very high expectations. You go to the Super Bowl and you have a quarterback going into his third year and you get A.J. Brown. The expectations are high. But let's talk about what conventional wisdom is. Cindy, let's put up 8-21. People will point to the schedule. Everyone who wants to diminish this team will point to the schedule. Last year, they had the easiest schedule in the NFL. This year, at least as of before the season begins, based on opponents' record from last year, they have the 6th hardest schedule in the league. Lewis, they're the defending conference champions. Do you consider New England the team to beat in the AFC?
I think they're one of them. I think they're the team to beat in the NFC East in particular, no question about that. I think they deserve that respect. Look, I think teams improve and change from year to year. New England's not the same team that was in 2025. They're a better football team. They're better offensively. They have more depth on the offensive line. They have more depth at wide receiver. They have more depth at tight end. Here's the kicker for New England. If New England can answer the question as far as perimeter pass rush to go along with the interior pass rush that they already have and the secondary they already have, they will win their division. They will be contending to go to the Super Bowl again. There's two guys, Draymond Jones, Gabe Akers, the second-round pick out of Illinois. Those are the two guys that hold, I think, the keys to the kingdom for them. If those guys can rush the passer and really improve that part of the game for them defensively, New England's right there. They're a better football team in 26 they were in 25. I don't care about their record about the strength of schedule from last year. I don't care about how hard it is this year. Every team is different. Every team improves and declines. New England has improved.
Just look at the beginning of their season. They open at the defending Super Bowl champs. They play Pittsburgh, which won a division last year. They play at Jacksonville, won a division last year. They play Buffalo, who figures to be their chief competition in the division this year. It's a critical first 4 games.
Agree. When you're building a team, you say, like, does my offensive line travel? Can it deal with crowd noise? And when you look at some of the games, at Seattle is going to be hard. At Jacksonville is going to be hard. Later on, they go to Chicago, Kansas City. I mean, you guys have Patrick Mahomes winning the Super Bowl.
So, and as we should, but go on.
Yeah. The point is, like, we're going to see if Will Campbell was a good player or was it the injury, because he's going to have to play well. Those are really hostile environments. And knowing how close they are to Buffalo, they're going to have to win their fair share of road games to win the division.
All right, one last thing before we let Mike Reese go. I want everyone to see just how hard our reporters work, okay? Before the players even get their work in, that's Mike Reese. He's out there. Look at him. He's got the ball security, right, Mike T? He's got they're carrying the fortunes of the franchise in his hand.
What would you expect from a football factory like UMass? I mean, you would see like Mike Reese with all the good fundamentals.
Mike Reese, what are we doing here? What, you getting your steps in before the program begins?
Oh. Well, let's just start by saying I'm glad I wasn't mic'd up, because I'm scared of what you would have heard with the huffing and puffing of me coming back with the football. But hey, ESPN is here. It's Patriots, Eagles, joint practices. We need a football on the set, so I was hustling to get it back.
He was getting a ball for Sal. Sal can't do a live shot without a prop.
No question.
And we couldn't find it. We couldn't get a copy of the Boston Globe or the Foxborough Gazette or whatever the paper there is. So we needed a football for him to work with. Hawk, how about the form? What did you think of the running form, that style from Mike Reese there?
Like I said, as another diminutive receiver, I like what Mike Reese is putting on display here. Quick strides, powerful strides, not covering a bunch of ground, but still effective. I obviously know a lot about that, Mike. I appreciate what you did there.
Keeping the eyes down, not looking at the rush. You know, he's ready to go.
Great ball security.
Mike Reese ready.
He only got one hand on the ball. I don't know if that was great, Mike.
Yeah,
we got the clipboard and notebook in the other hand.
Vrabel's going to have something to say. Mike Reese, you're the best. Thank you, my man. We'll be watching your coverage all